Let's talk now about this incredible piece of work called identity shift. What is step number one? I think you did such an incredible job in the beginning of the book talking about this experience that so many people have, whether they're just at the beginning of their journey and they're looking for that foothold to feel like, okay, I'm finally on that ladder of success, whatever that means to them. Or folks who maybe have achieved a bit and they feel like they're kind of bumping up against a ceiling.
Yeah.
And they start looking around and feeling like, gosh, everyone else seems to be going faster or they have more capacity. And you kind of feel like you're stuck at a certain level. So if anyone watching right now is in either one of those situations and going like, I've been trying to do all the things, but nothing seems to be working, I might need an identity shift. Can you explain to us, first of all, what that means to make an identity shift and why it's so important, and what would step one be?
Yeah. So first, to understand what it means, to understand what identity is, I guess from a really basic, and I explain to people that it's who you are when you're not thinking about who you are. It's just how you're being. And being it's good. Like, we need to be in that effortless effort space because we got to live our lives. However, when you're being, you are taking actions. As we all know, the actions build your life. So you're unintentionally building your life through an identity. And if you don't shift the identity, what happens is the things you were doing, how you're being, will not become that person who has those things. And it's very straightforward, but people think, well, I got to learn the new stuff and buy this new course and do this. It's like, that's great. All the information's great, but if you aren't the person to wield that tool, you won't build that house. You'll have all the tools, but like, you'll fall short. It's like giving a baby a hammer. Like, they're not going to build a house, but give it to a construction worker, like they might build a house, you know? So the first stage, which most people skip because it's very emotionally difficult, is like the first stage I went through when I was in that year of 2016. I had to really see who I was. There's a statement I love, and it's hard to see the label when you are inside of the jar. And a lot of us, we're sitting there living our lives going, why can't I achieve X, do X, have X? And it's like, you're oblivious to it. We'll call it blind spots, right? But there are people who tell us what we need to hear, and we go, they don't support me. They don't love me. Well, that's not maybe the truth. Maybe they love you enough to tell you. But if you keep bumping your head up against this thing, there's a possibility something you're doing is not the right thing for you. Doesn't mean it could be wrong or right for anybody else, but it might not be the right thing for you. We are so fast to go to the work that we never check and see, is this my work? So maybe you don't communicate well. Maybe you don't reciprocate well. Maybe you don't take, feedback well, whatever it may be. If that's inevitably happening as you're just being every day and you're unaware of it, that will keep you consistently stuck.
Yes. And I think you give such great examples in the book too, of just, again, your storytelling in the beginning, genius, around this particular person who shows up late everywhere, right? Not keeping his word with himself, rushing out the door. There's just kind of these habitual patterns of almost a form of self-sabotage, but just like a fish in water, if that's how you're always operating and you don't really shine a light on it or be willing to see like, oh, well, what part am I playing in how my life is actually showing up right now? Like what is my part? Am I not, am I hitting snooze on that alarm every single morning? Am I rushing out the door? Am I throwing sugar-filled or, kind of fast food in my mouth and expecting my body to perform at a high level? Am I not listening to my spouse? Am I spending all my time on something like this and not actually present with people?
Yeah.
And so this notion of seeing, I love how much emphasis you put on that, about getting, this is my word, somewhat excited to see your own blind spots, to see the areas where you may be bumping your head against a wall and you don't really realize it.
I like how you said that, because there is, I think once you get to a certain level of, I call it consciousness, you're like aware that these things you find out, there are opportunities to improve. So it does become an excitement for it. I think so many people are so deathly afraid of being pointed out. Like people will say, oh, I'm not perfect. But the moment you see an imperfection, they fight you on it. It's like, oh, but you just said you weren't perfect. So what makes you think that when I say this, like that's a problem? But that's the thing, is most people do not get excited for feedback.
Yeah. And I think, that's it's an interesting statement. And I believe probably it may have to do with, this has been going on for a long time, but some people, the only place that they're looking for feedback per se is not necessarily from a gifted coach like yourself or from someone in their life that they trust and who trusts them and has their heart in a safe place, but they might be looking for it online where like anybody can say anything, at any time of the day and just kind of throw stuff at you, whether or not it's accurate or whether or not you'd even respect that person. They don't even know you.
Yeah.
So I think, and again, you talk about this in Identity Shift. It's like having someone in your life who can help you see yourself clearly and can give you that feedback in a way that's honest and that's real, but that's not designed to crush your soul.
No. And the funny thing is most of us, if you look at it properly, the reason I get excited about it is now I get to see what's now new possibilities for me. Because if I was stuck here because of this thing I wasn't aware of, if you show it to me and I go, oh, it sucks that I got to figure this out. But if I do, oh, look what I can go do now. Like that's what I think is the beautiful transition people miss. It's like when we're pointing something out, it's not just so you can feel bad. It's so you can fix it and see what's newly possible. I don't know if it was in the book, but I tell a story about my dog. And like when I go to the park, he's on a leash. He sees what's nearby, no excitement. The moment I take his leash off and his eyes pop up to see what's possible, he's gone. Right? So it's that thing where we live with a leash that's behind our head holding us unaware of it. But the moment it gets off and we're aware that it's off, there's a ton of new possibilities.
I love it. So, okay. Step number 1 is seeing.
Yes.
And that's the spot that most people don't want to go, but it's the most important one if we want to have an identity shift. What's step number 2?
Step 2 is shift, which is, unfortunately, it's where everybody goes first. Cause what happens is you end up doing stuff and you get burned out. Cause like I'm doing the things, and why don't I have the thing? And it's like, well, cause you were doing the wrong things you didn't see. But if you have seen, the next stage is, it's kind of twofold. One is I must craft what I call the ideal identity. Like who is the individual who has what you want and how are they showing up? Because if you can understand what that is, we can build a plan into it through actions. But most people don't do that. They go, well, what does that person do? And what do they have? And I want that. And I want to do that. I'm going to do all these little things. And it's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, like you have to look deeper than just what you see and see how they're showing up as a human, because there's integrity behind that. There's honesty behind that. There's hard work behind that. And when you can do that, it shows up to where you can go, okay, if I see that as what an aspiration is, my shift work, my personalized shift plan is I need to do this specific thing. Because here's where people don't grasp. There's a transition we're trying to kind of cross. We call it a gap. I'm going to close this identity gap. The gap is where you go from this thing I have to do, it's dreary and it sucks and I hate it, to where I go from I don't want to do it to where it is incredibly difficult not to do it. There's this weird chasm that if you can jump that, like for example, some people go, oh, I got to work out. At some point you work out and you go, I feel weird if I don't work out today. So who's going to work out and get in shape? Easier, right? It's the person who crosses that. And you first have to be able to set out the identity you're trying to go to and then chart the path to get there. Now, this isn't always where we start the work and actually do it. That's the last phase of it, because that's where it's really the magic happens. But the shift phase is, what's the ideal identity I want to shift into and actually look at it? And then what are the things that I must uniquely do that if I did them long enough, I could shift into that identity?
That's great. And I love how you articulated this notion of it's not like doing it like pushing yourself or forcing yourself, which is such a drain on the energy. And it feels like, to your point, that's not necessarily an identity shift. It's almost like you're crawling on the top of a surface and you're trying to just grab the easy things to hope to get the outcome versus becoming the human who does this kind of thing naturally, mostly enthusiastically, as a authentic expression of your soul. And those are two very, very different,
vastly different things. And it's, I think it's because everybody falls in love with the destination and not the day. Like everybody, I want this thing, and every day I'm presently aware of how far I am from that thing, and that's the measuring stick. And so I'm emotionally like, oh, I feel it every day. But if I fall in love with the day and the thing I'm supposed to do, because there's things that I don't inherently love to do, but I find joy around doing them. Like my wife, she has businesses and I'm her handyman. I don't always like to go do it. However, I'm like, you know what? There's some new albums I want to listen to. So I'm going to put them in my ear while I'm working. I'm like, I get to listen to cool music. Or my wife and I drive out. I get to spend an hour in the car with my wife having a catch-up conversation or whatever we haven't had to chat about. I find a way to fall in love with my day. And so the day gets done, things get met, and all of a sudden I arrive at destinations. I'm like, oh, super cool. But I want to get back to my day. So in fact, the destination is the journey. The destination isn't the destination.
Yes. It's something we talk about in our world. And I often talk about this with my team. It's like we bring the party, right? Like if there is something that needs to happen. It must happen. I'm the responsible human to do it. I have one of two ways to go about it. I'm either going to begrudgingly do it and complain my way with it and resist it and wish I was doing something else, or embrace it like it was my idea in the first place. And I'm going to have a damn good time while it's happening.
Yeah, that's how I do it.
And that second version, right, is where not only all the magic happens, but the gorgeousness of life begins to get strung together, because all of those moments equal your life. I love this. Okay, tell me about step number 3. So we've got C, we've got shift.
Yeah.
And where do we go next?
Sustain. It's the last phase. It's where the shift actually takes place. And I akin it to kind of like going to a coffee shop to do work. I go to the coffee shop. I know I got to get some work done, and I'm on my phone scrolling. I'm on social, right? Or I'm distracted talking to people. I'm like, oh, I finally noticed I got to work on this. So I put these things down and I try to focus, right? And I get in the first 5-10 minutes, I'm doing my thing. But then at some point in time, all of a sudden it drowns out, and then like 3 hours goes by. And I go, oh, I got the emails done. Like, this is all moving smooth. Like, oh, my to-do list is good. I feel good, right? And I explain to people that if you can create a discipline system that's set up of boundaries and structure, and it could be block time. There's ways to create a cocoon, right? Or a group of people around you that keep you dialed. What happens is, where the first day, week, 2 weeks, it feels like that, like, oh, I got to focus. But after a while, all of a sudden you pop up 3 months later. It's like, wow, my life is better. My marriage is better. I'm in better shape. My business runs smoother. Like, all these things happen. But the idea is I'm doing that while falling in love with the day. Like, when we do our work, what's the things we got to do to get there? Okay, great. Let's come back to the start. What's step 1 look like? What's step 2 look like? And only look at this. And so the discipline system is, how can I get you to create a structure of discipline so you can love your day doing the things that you know will lead you to this end destination? Now, yes, they're going to feel awkward, out of character, but they don't consume your day. It might be a 15-minute thing like that, but the rest of it's all moving in that direction. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you go, wow, I've made more money. My relationship is generally closer and connected. I feel better in my body. Like, those are the things that I want you to do. And people go, well, how do you know you made the shift? And I go, all of us can attest to this. There's a space and time in our past where I can go back and realize I was unsuccessful and go, what was it like to be that? Because I can't put myself back in that headspace. When you can notice you can't go back to that headspace, it's apparent you've made that shift.
Yes, 100%. And I love also just your reiteration of, you have to fall in love with process. There's actually research around that, around happiness and fulfillment. And people that stay so focused on the final destination or the mile marker or the goal are less likely to actually keep doing the work to get there, versus people, I think it was a study about folks showing up in the gym. Mm-hmm. And whether people were like, okay, focused on this outcome, or I'm really going to just pay attention to process. Like, how do I feel on that treadmill and being there for every breath, or doing those chest presses or whatever it is. And the folks who focus on process are happier, more fulfilled, and more likely to actually stick with whatever that discipline is. So it's right on the money.
It's because eventually it becomes who you are. Because we all know the person who had like a Facebook that, like, a year ago was like a weird, like, dream catcher and her cat, on the face of her Facebook. And then all of a sudden she starts going to the gym, and you see a water bottle picture, and you see a picture of the gym. None of her yet. And then one day, 3 months in, you see a picture of her in the mirror because she feels better about herself. And her friends go, get it, Karen. And like, Karen's like, yeah, I feel good about myself. And the next thing you know, like, she's showing videos of her working out, and she's got her friends coming and if you look a year, you're like, it's a different person. A genuine. And so where, again, it was difficult, it is now incredibly difficult for her not to do the things she is doing. That's the big thing that people aren't getting to. Like, they see individuals like us at a high level go, how do you do it? It looks so easy. I'm like, well, first, it's not. Secondly,
absolutely.
Yeah. Secondly, it's a different level of how I approach the work. I call it effortless effort. It takes effort, 100% does, but it almost feels smooth and effortless because it's me staying in alignment with who I see myself to be identity-wise. And when you've crafted it and shifted into it, I want to stay here. Therefore, I do this work with joy to stay here.
I'm a relative newbie in my industry, and I'm constantly fighting thoughts about not being good enough, not being experienced enough, or not being old enough. Are there any tips for beating down the voice of resistance? Girl. First of all, Marie, you have an awesome name. Here's a little secret I want to tell you. Everybody thinks they're not good enough. The fear of not being good enough is one of the deepest, most fundamental fears every human being on the planet has. My man Josh Pais says this a slightly different way. He says if you listen to your thoughts in your mind, they all boil down to the same thing. I suck. So the first thing I want you to recognize, Marie, is the whole I'm not good enough thing is not personal to you. We all have it. It's like our mind's default factory setting. That's why it's so important to recognize that you have a mind, but you are not your mind. You're also not the thoughts that you think in your mind. It's something I talk about a lot in my book, and it's something my homeboy Eckhart Tolle talks about in all his books.
You believe that you are your mind. This is the delusion.
Second thing we need to talk about is this. Those I'm not good enough thoughts do not go away. The older you get, the more experienced you get, or the more successful you get. I've been doing what I've been doing for a long time now, and I'm damn good at it. But I will tell you this, every time I start a new project, those same old I'm not good enough BS thoughts come up. But here's the thing, now I know how to deal with them, and I will say it is a practice. So nobody gets this perfect, you will have to work at it. Here's exactly what to do. When that thought, I'm not good enough, comes up, say, thanks for sharing, biatch, and get back to kicking ass. What do I mean by kicking ass? I mean put all of your attention on the person you're serving or helping. Do the work. Put your attention out, not on you. If all your attention is on creating results and helping others, you've got no room to wonder whether you're good enough.
Hi, Marie. I'm a 31-year-old optometrist, wife and mother of 2. I've been married for 5 years, lived in the same house for 5 years, and I've been at the same job for 5 years. I love my family dearly and enjoy my job. However, I feel like something huge is missing. I'm not sure if it's the 5-year slump or if I'm meant to do something bigger. I've never heard of the 5-year slump. Is that the thing that comes 2 years before the 7-year itch? All right, she says, I've never been one to take huge chances. I come from a family of realists. I know I have a lot of potential, but there's always that you're not good enough thought nagging me. I need and want to break free of this desperately. I love dancing, but I'm self-conscious. I love singing, but I don't do it because I worry how I'll be perceived. I have to cut the self-doubt for myself and my family. I certainly don't want to instill it in my children. Sincerely, Kristen. Great question, Kristen. So many of us can relate to that feeling that there's something missing in our life. And before we move ahead, I want to acknowledge you for having the courage to say, you know what? I am not going to settle for the status quo, and I want more for my life. Good for you, woman. First things first, if you don't make the change right now, you're right. You will pass along all that self-doubt to your kids. If they see you as someone who's not willing to take risks, as someone who's not going to go for their dreams, you're going to wind up creating your own family of realists. And what I mean by that is people who are unwilling to go for their dreams, unwilling to be unreasonable. And here's the thing, Kristen, as you know, sometimes the best things in life come when we're being unreasonable. On the other hand, if your kids see you taking action and going after your dreams and being willing to embarrass yourself every once in a while, they're going to get the message that it's safe for them to take risks and to go after their dreams instead of just dreaming about them. Here's the other thing about what's missing from your life, Kristen. What's missing is fun. Just because you're in a slump, it doesn't mean that you've outgrown your house or your marriage or a job. All it means is that you've outgrown your tolerance for leading a boring-ass life. We human beings need to be creative. We need the adventure and the excitement and the variety that comes from creative endeavors. And when I was reading your question, that little line that you have about dancing, that you wish you could dance, you wish you could sing, tells me that you are creatively malnourished. You are starving right now. And look, you don't have to go audition for X Factor or do anything crazy like that. You can just start singing in your shower if you want, or you can take dance breaks at the office. I'll give you an example from my own life. I am a bit of a closet hippie, and in the past year, I've been starting to go to drumming circles. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I love it. Sure, I could have let the fear of looking stupid stop me, but when has that stopped me before? If we get right down to it, I have the life I have right now because I'm willing to look stupid. Here's the thing, Kristen. You are waiting for a sudden hit of courage to do the things you're afraid of. But the truth is this, you have courage inside of you. You just need to activate it.
Courage is a muscle, and you build it by doing the things that you're afraid of. So if you're terrified of something, say, screw it, I'm going to do it anyway. That's the way that you're going to strengthen and stimulate your sexy courage muscles. As Mr. John Wayne said, and yes, it's a tweetable. Courage is being scared to death and saddling up anyway.
I love how much emphasis in the beginning of the book you put on the power of knowing and being our fullest selves. And I'll be honest with you, so many times, Lovey, I get interviewed, people like, how are you so confident? And I'm like, A, I'm not. B, I still struggle sometimes with going like, God, am I being too much? Am I being too much? Am I overpowering? So there's so much to talk about. You're right. To know who we are is to insist on knowing we are not what others put on us. We are not the names people call us. We are not our worst moments. Don't let people who can't even spell your name right tell you who you are. That one had me cackling because I can't tell you how many times Maria, I'm like, really? Like even folks who are paying me very good money to teach them things, are calling me Maria. Anyway, I would love if you could tell us about Oriki. Did I pronounce that right?
Oriki.
Yeah, Oriki. Great. And the power of being crystal clear on who we are and that tradition behind that.
Yes. So Oriki is a Yoruba tradition where it is basically a mantra that connects you back to your past, your ancestors, that reminds you of who you are. It's sang in celebrations that you have, birthdays, weddings, because Nigerians love to party Tuesday just because they feel like it. You talk to the right person, they might just drop your Oriki on you real quick for no reason. And it's really important because to the point of when I've also been asked that. I remember getting off a stage one day when I keynoted a conference and somebody walks up to me and was like, how are you so self-assured? Because they were like, you have this grounded energy. And I was just like, I don't know. I didn't know how to answer it then. I didn't know how to answer them then, but now I know because I'm very clear who I am. And a lot of times people will shake us and move us away from who we are or call us something and we'll internalize that and say, yeah, you're right. I am this thing. But I need us to define who we are. And that's what Oriki does for you in advance. Like it will tell you, remember who your parents are, remember where you come from, remember what you hold dear. And it was important for me to put that in the beginning of the book because for us to exist in this world, when we don't know who we are, when we're not grounded in who we are, we're in constant state of flux. We're constantly being punished because, humans can be trash, right?
Yes.
One thing humans are really amazing at is othering each other. We're so good at that. We're so good at making somebody else feel bad. We're so good at insulting each other and being like, you're not good enough. So it is our jobs and our bodies to insist on who we are, even when somebody's calling us something opposite. And that is for me is my guiding light, my compass. In my worst moments, that is my guiding light. This is who I am. I am clear about it. Doesn't matter what somebody says about me. I am still this person. And adults, we don't realize that we never got the practice of standing in who we are. So when another adult sees you and says, wow, you're so confident, it's like, am I not supposed to be? It's because so many people aren't. It's because we've been beat up by the world. We've been told we're not good enough. We've been told that we're stupid or we're too fat or we're too skinny or we're too this thing. And next thing you know, you're kind of lost. You're like, okay, I guess I am that. So knowing who you are prevents you from being told who you are by random people who can't spell your name right, people who just would not be in the same room as you, people who you would not break bread with. So, yeah.
I love to, because I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and I did a version of what you teach us all to do in the book, which I love that you have that formula. Right before I came out with Everything is Figureoutable, and I decided to do this Beyonce book tour launch, I was like, okay, I've never put on a concert before, and I got to launch a book, and I'm totally out of shape cardio-wise. I literally Lovey, I wrote myself this thing on my phone and would look at it every day. And I was like, you are the breaker of chains. Like, it was hilarious, but it works. And I just want to thank you for putting that, because not only is it fun as hell, but we need to do that. And you're 100% right. No one ever teaches us this. And so you feel like a ping pong ball around the world. And I feel like, with social, especially these past years, and you and I, we're similar in this way. It's like, we've been on the internet a long time. Like, when I started my business in 1999, which crazy, right? It's like, we didn't have any social media at all. And so now it's this constant potential to compare yourself or to hear feedback. And if you aren't grounded in who you are 100% right. Man, it can get real easy to get lost.
You share that all suffering begins and ends with you. And I love that. You also wrote, I realized that when I believed my thoughts, I suffered, but then when I didn't believe them, I didn't suffer, and that this is true for every human being. Freedom is as simple as that. So for those who may be unfamiliar, I'm curious if you can walk us through the 4 questions and the turnaround that is the work.
I'd love to. I love that. And also, this is all free on thework.com. If I have anything of value, it's free there.
Yes.
So, or byronkatie.com. So let's say, what's a belief we could work with? Like, something terrible is going to happen, or he doesn't care about me. What's a good one?
Oh, let's play with a belief. Let's see. A belief, that's a good one. You know what? He doesn't.
And thoughts for you, for those of you, it doesn't have to, like, we have beliefs and we think, oh, I don't believe that. So just be a stressful thought.
Yes, a stressful thought. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you know what? Here's like a silly one, because I feel like some of the silliest ones can be some of the most persistent.
Absolutely.
He should put the toilet seat down, because I've asked him 20 times.
Oh, yes. And he still leaves the toilet seat up. Oh, okay. So he should put the toilet seat on. So for your listeners, the work is meditation. It's a way of identifying what is causing our stress. And in this case, we're working with, he should put the toilet seat down. Okay. So the first question we're going to meditate in is it true? Now, visualize a time when you were believing that, a time when you walked into the bathroom and there it was.
Yes.
In plain sight. And you had the thought he should put the toilet seat down. Now, so everyone meditate there. Just hold that anchor in the situation. It's very important. So he should put the toilet seat down. Is it true? Can you really know that it's true that he, and you know who you're talking about, he should put the toilet seat down? And the answer is either yes or no, just for all of you that are new to the word. Yes. It's not yes and or no because. It's you just stay there and until you're shown, and you'll see it through images and thoughts as you contemplate the question, he should put the toilet seat down. Is it true? Can you really know that it's true?
Thankfully, because I've practiced the work with you, I'm able to get to a no. And I'm like, no, but I can tell you, and I just want to share this just very honestly, I can almost hear a different version of my mind, Katie, going, but yes, because I've asked for it 50,000 times.
Exactly. And when we ask, is it true? That's what comes up.
Yes.
I've told him 100 times, he just doesn't get it. And and here we go. We're in this other world and we're literally fixing breakfast or lunch in there, but we are mentally in the freaking bathroom. Mm-hmm. So it's like we're not present in where we are. We're living in that bathroom. In our mind's eye. And then he walks in and he says, hi, honey. And we give him the look like, yeah, sure. Like he doesn't know he left the toilet seat down again. Mm-hmm. So, all that goes to, when we sit in this, but then I just go, yep, hear that as I'm in the kitchen, at the sink. I'm mentally in the bathroom and I'm doing this work. He should put the toilet seat down. Is it true? So until I come out with a clear yes or no, I'm going to hear all those things that you just brought up. Mm-hmm. So you ended up just finding that no and then experiencing it emotionally. You just get it. And yes is equal to no, all of you out there. We're just looking for your answer, the one shown to you as you seriously and mindfully meditate in that bathroom as you stand at the sink. Okay, so now the next question, how do you react standing at the sink? How do you react when you believe the thought, he should put the toilet seat down? Now you're at the sink, look at you walking into the bathroom in the situation where you had the thought.
Yes.
He should put the toilet. Now, how do you react? What happens when you believe the thought?
I make an angry, scowly face. I definitely pull my energy back. I get bitchy. I feel entitled. I am kind of curt and mean. I might even say something, that's a little hurtful.
Like again?
Yes, absolutely. I am certainly, Katie, I am not my highest self when I am believing that thought. The way I react is definitely, it's kind of like having a little tantrum. It's having like a childish tantrum. That's how I describe it.
Okay. Now feel the emotions you feel. Just take time out for that. Feel what that feels like, what you described.
Frustration.
Mm-hmm.
It feels probably little twinges of anger. Mm-hmm. I could feel a sense of feeling misunderstood or not respected.
Now get in touch with your body language. Witness that.
Yes.
It's really important. We see that and we witness it. And the next time, sometimes that's the clue that we're caught in the dream again. So
yes.
it's and those emotions, they're there to remind us that we're thinking we're no longer in touch with reality. We're in the dream. And so, and then notice how you treat him when you think the thought. And notice how you look at him and the words that come out and your attitude, and just sitting there in the silence, notice what arises and then describe it.
So from my body posture, it is closed off. I would say that there is a coldness, like I can turn on the ice queen in a moment.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I would say the words that come out of my mouth, they are unkind.
Mm-hmm.
There is a sense of anger and frustration, of pulling back love,
mm-hmm.
of holding back my heart. Just again, definitely not my best self, Katie.
Yeah, and we turn into we turn into like these strict, stern teachers, and they're the inferior, and we're the superior, and definitely making sure that they know there is something wrong with them. And
that's right.
I'm right. He's wrong.
A superiority, like a punishing kind of nature. Yep. And absolutely.
Yeah. And so then we feel that and then notice, and this really takes some presence, but notice as you're thinking that and feeling that and acting that out, notice any images you see of the past where he has done that before.
Yes, it's almost as if there's like a stacking, right? A picture stacking of all of the times. Yes.
Exactly. Now look at the images as you are in that. Look at the images that were going on in your mind's eye of the future where he's going to do it again and again and again.
Yes.
Yeah, unending. He's
the toilet seat up for infinity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, yeah. So here is something to notice. Is the toilet seat being up? Is that what's bothering you, or what you're thinking and believing as you witness the toilet seat?
It's the latter.
Okay.
It's the latter.
Okay, so I love that, Marie, because we can reality will never upset us. What we are thinking and believing about reality, those images of past, future, as we witness the present moment now, that is the dream world. And that is what's upsetting us. It's like having anything from a minor nightmare to a major one.
Yes.
And it can be like the Princess and the Pea. It can be the slightest little bruise, or it can be like a major meltdown. People, they divorce over these things. They murder over these things. They think they fight in front of their children over these things, or argue. Or we're teaching the people around us how to live by example.
Yes.
And our mind would say, by example, my children should understand that, the toilet seat should be down, and, that's out of context, but it's just, just bad example of what we're,
Yes.
because we hide so much from our children of our
Yes.
disapproval of others. Okay. So now the last question, there are only 4. Last question. Now, be there now. Look at the toilet seat. Who would you be without the thought he should put the toilet seat down?
Oh, like joyous and loving and absolutely undisturbed at all with the state of a toilet seat.
So it's not even personal.
Yeah.
It just is what it is.
It just is what it is.
And to imagine that could upset a human being out of the enlightened mind that you're seeing it now is radically different. Now, he should put the toilet seat down. I love this work. It's so user-friendly because it doesn't just leave us out there in the others. Can you find an opposite?
Yes.
Or a turnaround? He should put the toilet seat down.
Yes. And one opposite is he shouldn't put the toilet seat down.
Okay. So that is catching up to reality. How
Yes.
do I know he shouldn't? He didn't.
That's right.
He didn't. He didn't have a problem with it. I'm the one with the problem. There's
That's
something.
right.
There's something off here. He's living this. He's in there singing and whistling, and I am. Okay. So, can you find another one?
I should put the toilet seat down.
Okay. So now, just in your mind's eye, just walk up, do it in your mind's eye, and just be present. Is it without what you're thinking and believing? Isn't it fair? You're the one with the problem.
Yes. If I'm the one that wants it down, I should be the one who puts it down.
Yeah, because this is self-care.
Yes.
And then when he walks in, you're at the sink, you can say, honey, you left the toilet seat up again. And I just had the most amazing time just blaming you in my mind's eye and then just taking care of it. And I'd appreciate if you put the toilet seat down. And then he will or he won't. But there's no war.
Yes.
In our home.
Yes.
And where do we do our best work? When we are in that state of connection or blaming?
Oh,
it's
connection
just
all the way. And,
all the way.
I want to share here. I know I created that silly example, but I feel
it's not so silly though, is it?
No, because I feel like so much of our lives, Katie, at least again,
they're built of trivia like this.
Yes.
It's not so trivial when we're in it.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And again, I just want to reiterate. So we skipped question 2 because I
combined it. Is it
Yes.
true? Can you really know that it's true?
Yes.
That second one is, can you absolutely know that it's true that he should put the toilet seat down? So I kind of combined them in the interest of when I first started sharing the work with people, there were only 3 questions, and I thought, I'll split it to give them a double shot at the first one.
I love it.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
So is it true? Can you really know that it's true? Yeah.
I also wanted to just make a note here for anyone listening. Again, I know it was somewhat trivial example that we just went through, but if you're unfamiliar with Katie's work, she's done it on so many situations with so many beautiful souls throughout our world, including folks who have done the work on rape, folks who have done the work on war, on torture, on prolonged illness, and even the death of a child. So I say that, not to go into this dark place, but to simply share how incredibly profound this process is, that we can use it
Truly,
everywhere.
truly, truly it is. There is no dark place that we have experienced or fear to experience that we cannot meet with understanding if we simply understood how to identify what's frightening us and to question it. But it does take a meditative, it does take, why ask these questions if we don't really want to know the truth? Because the truth is the way out. And what I love about this is it's where we're looking at our own truth, not the world's.
Yes.
But really it's a showdown with the self. Don't you just really want to know the cause of suffering? If I think it's my husband, then I'm looking out and I need to look in, because what I am thinking and believing about that situation I am the one creating the problem. It's, what I'm thinking, Marie, is it's a toilet seat, for heaven's sakes, but we can only afford to say that after we have worked on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So who'd think a toilet seat would be there for our for our own good?
Who would think, right, that the toilet seat is our spiritual teacher, but it actually is.
Anything that throws us into a state like that takes us back to ourselves. So we're grateful for, you can walk in and see a toilet seat like that and laugh and laugh and laugh and not even remember that it happened or you put it down or anything. So you cease to even taking credit for putting it down. You stop understanding what people are talking about because it's just such a common way. We just pick up the trash. We just do the dishes. We put down the toilet seat. And then that's what people learn from us, because we are living, we are a living example of how we want the world to be. And because we have the world as we want it to be, it's responsible to really question what we believe that would harm ourselves or another human being in any way.
I've used it so many times to catch myself. It was interesting. After doing the New Year's cleanse, I just had such a great time, Katie, catching myself actually standing at the kitchen sink and about to hear the words come out of my mouth to direct, Josh to do something or to try and arrange the world how I believed that it should be arranged, because of course I'm right in my mind. And I literally heard myself go, Marie, if you'd like those dishes dried, then do them. And I did them. And I was like, wow, this is just delightful and fun and so much more pleasant. Like it's such a more gentle and loving way to go through life. So I had to share that with you because I keep catching myself and it's great.
And isn't it time saving?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And the dishes are done. And have you ever wondered who did them? I mean, because your mind is so pleasant to be with that it really becomes a timeless, a timeless world.
Hey there, you high achiever. Are you feeling a little stressed? I've got something amazing for you. It'll melt your stress away in like 5 seconds flat, and it's free. You need to go to marielovesyou.com/stresslog. That's marielovesyou.com/stresslog. You're going to get this amazing free tool instantly, and I promise you it will melt away that stress. So you wrote in the book about the time that you were a kid and you were singing Ain't No Mountain High Enough. And your dad, right? He had a long week.
he had a lot on his plate and he was like, pipe down. And I basically, I had the same thing happen to me, except it was my brother. And I was singing and I was like so happy. And I remember that very kind of sharp, whatever he said to me, like, shut up, you're terrible. Or, it was young, but it locked into my brain, Koya. I've talked about this before, that I couldn't sing, or that something about my voice was, not right, not good. Stop doing that. And I love that that's the story you opened the chapter about limiting beliefs, because, if we have that idea, right, whether it was around singing or anything else that we experienced as a kid, that we can't, or it's not possible for us, or we're not good enough in some X, Y, Z way, we don't have to live with that limiting belief, and we can actually transform it. So I'm curious, you wrote in the book, you said limiting beliefs are just there to tell you where you need help. That was beautiful. What exactly do you need to cultivate, or who do you need to invite into your life to move through that limiting idea? Just tell me more about limiting beliefs, how you see them, how we can transform them. I have the sentence stem that I want to go to next, but just let me hear your philosophy on limiting beliefs.
So I truly believe limiting beliefs are just like a sign of where we need more love. And I believe fear, whatever vibration it fear is our friend, and it shows us places that we need more love, we need more nurture, we need more attention there. Even the things happening in the world, it's showing us places that we need more attention, we need more awareness. So if we look at it as like more of a calling, like, hey, something's wrong here, we need to fix this individually, we need to fix this collectively. That's what limiting beliefs are. When we have like, I'm not good enough, I'm not old enough. And to be clear, my dad says, shut up. And my dad is a very positive person. I maybe heard him cuss one or two times, but shut up was a thing that we did not say. And so for me to be singing my heart out, ain't no mountain high enough. And I was into it, and I sang it over and over and over and over. And I had a mic, the karaoke that they just bought me for Christmas. And so it was blazing through the house. And then to hear, it wasn't even a warning. It wasn't even like a pipe down, or how when it gets to the third time and they're just done with it. He was holding on to it, or you could tell, because he's like, Koya, shut up. And I was like, I'm a daddy's girl. So I was traumatized. So I was like, I thought I was singing good. I thought he was vibing on it because no one said anything. So I thought everyone was just living their whole life of me singing this song to the top of my lungs. So when that hit me, it crushed me. And I went to my room and I just cried forever and ever and way too long. And I remember coming down like an hour later, looking all puffy faced and snotty nosed. And he's like, what's wrong with you? He had no clue I'd been crying for an entire hour. He's like, I swear you were just singing. What's wrong? What happened? Who hit you? What happened? And I was like, you told me to shut up. And he was like, oh, come on, Come on, Mom. My mom's in the background laughing, and I was just crushed. And I went back to my room, was so hurt. And I didn't know that affected me for as long as it did. I thought, and then I realized after, doing some work myself and some counseling myself, is that, why are you afraid to sing? Why are you afraid? And I used to sing in the church choir and things like that. And I was like, and then that instance, that visual, it kept coming up for me, because again, I know my dad didn't mean anything by it, but I realized that I had stuffed that moment in my tissues and in my cells and in my body. And I never dealt with it. I never told him how I really felt. So I had to go back and talk to myself, the younger version of myself. And those who do therapy and know this type of coaching, that a lot of times when we have wounds as children that we don't deal with, we actually have to go back and heal it by speaking to that younger version of ourselves and saying, it's okay, you sound good. Because even if we're like, oh, I'm fine now, a lot of times, again, it's in our cells, it's in our tissues that, we're not good enough or we don't sound great. And so first of all, I went back and I did that childhood work of just going back to myself and saying, you sound amazing, and understanding my dad was just tired and he didn't mean it. And then I talked to my dad about it. He was like, girl, I love your voice. And so I did that healing work. And then I wrote and produced my own song. So that was a big healing thing, because I did the writing with a friend of mine, Justin Michael Williams. And then we recorded it. I filmed it from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. to sunset, had my friends come through, and I just fully let myself have that vision.
I love that. I love that. So for anyone who has a limiting belief that maybe isn't about singing, because, Coy and I share that, you have this incredible sentence stem that you can reinvent any limiting belief by basically turning it around. And the sentence stem is, rather than saying, I'm always late, for example, the limiting belief like, oh, I can't be on time for anything, I'm just a mess. I am working on being on time. Or for you and I don't have a good voice. I'm working on making my voice the best it can be. Are you still using that sentence stem? Because I think it's great. And I think people are going to love it.
I am still using that, and I plussed it a little bit. And now I tell people that they can turn limiting beliefs into liberating affirmations, and to speak it as an affirmation. So what is your liberating affirmation for singing? I sing and I know the world is blessed by my voice and my message. And if it's like, I'm always late, I arrive on time, and I arrive in the right place at the right time. So it's like, how can you make it a liberating affirmation? And it has to have some power around it. And a lot of people say, well, that's not true. Well, it's true when you speak it. So now you just have to live up to it, and also not feel like you have to be perfect. Do I feel like I hit every note and everything's? No, it's not about perfection. It's about living as well as you can, and living up to those expectations of yourself and your truth and your purpose as much as you can. But it's not about being perfect at anything. It's just about doing the best that you can. So I think once you have that you've turned that limiting belief to a liberating affirmation, you can fully stand in your power, and not a perfect power, but a power that makes you feel good just because you're showing up.
Let's talk about the story. You tell so many great stories in this book. Let's talk about the one that happened when you found that hate-filled post about you on the Facebook.
So I get a call from one of my team members, and she's like, don't go on Facebook. I was like, what? And she's like, there's a whole person's Facebook page, and they're railing on you, and they're going off about you. And maybe like 30 people had chimed in being like, oh, you hate Gabby Bernstein? Thank God somebody's talking about it. Just like, going after me.
Yeah.
And while 30 people is a small number in the grand scheme of the universe, this feels really overwhelming. And even one person hating you on the internet can shake you to your core. Yes. So I do what anyone would do in that moment, and I start to go down that hole of shame and upset, and what did I do wrong, and how could I have triggered these people in this way, and what is my part, and just getting so hooked into it, even though a lot of what was being said without any information, right? But regardless, I didn't even need to dig into it to feel the feelings of discomfort, and I was getting really, really hung up about it. And it took, it was about a full day of just like being down and bummed out. And I remember I was watching television with my husband at night, and I was staring at my phone, just being like, did more people weigh in? Like, what's happening? Yeah. And he looked at me, he's like, what is going on? You can't even be present with me in this room. Why are you so stuck in this? And I was like, it feels so horrible to be, pounded on the internet. And I'm so upset about it. And he said, listen, you've got it all wrong, girl. This is what my husband became a guru. And he said, you are focusing all your energy on these 30 people who are hating you, but you have thousands of people on your DM on Instagram that are trying to send you love, that are asking you questions, that want your support, and you don't even know how to find your DM.
You and me were in the same boat for a long time. Yeah.
And he's like, you don't even know how to find it. He's like, let me show you how to find your DM and focus on the people that need you, not on these people that are hating on you. So I spend the next 4 days just DMing. Like, I went on my Instagram, I was like, yo, who wants to DM? Like, let's go. And so I'm just like in it and
Yeah.
I'm just feeling so like within 48 hours, I was just like so transformed by just being in the service of others and connecting to the people that really wanted to hear from me and wanted my support. And what happened that was so transformational was I woke up one morning a few days into this, and I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I was upset by still a little upset.
Yeah,
by
the thought
this.
came right back in.
Oh,
Of
there they
course.
are. Why are they talking about me?
Of course.
And in that moment, I was like, okay, Zach said get on DM. So I get back on my DM and I start DMing and I see this girl and she's talking to me and she's saying, listen, I was sober for 2 years. I just went out. I feel like I want to commit suicide right now. I start DMing with her. Within the hour, I'm on the phone with her. And that day, she made a commitment to go back to recovery. So I have deep gratitude for those haters, because those haters gave me this beautiful opportunity to be of service to somebody and potentially save her life, and also just get over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. And I wanted you to tell that story in the context of being a super attractor, because this is not about feeling good all the time. That's impossible.
Yeah.
And it's not about living in such a bubble or such a space where bad things, hurtful things, painful things don't happen. But I think what's so wonderful about this particular book is it's like, hey, we can expect all this stuff, but here are really concrete tools and some great stories that will help you reframe these situations in a new light.
That's right.
And pick yourself back up with external support. And I think that's another really interesting thing. You told a great story in there, and I'm wondering if you can retell it here, about one of the inspirations for this book was, ironically, on your last tour, right?
Yeah.
You went hard, girl. And I know, you're a hard worker, but you started to notice a thought that you were having that was stressing you out and having you feel unsupported.
Yeah. Yeah. So on the book tour for my book, Judgment Detox, I got out of alignment. And one of my key team members was on maternity, and I was dealing with a gut condition, and I was super stressed and just feeling unsupported, and got really, really taken out. And I opened the book by telling that story because the thrill of being able to write this book was what was going to heal me from that, like recovery from that. And so I literally started writing this book on the tail end of that launch, because I needed to remind myself of what I knew to be true.
Yeah.
And I needed to get back into alignment. So writing, I literally, the first page of the book is like, I'm so psyched to be writing this book. And I hope that the reader feels that energy, because I was just ready to just reconnect. And whenever we're in a place where we're pushing or controlling or manipulating or trying to make things happen, we are cutting off our super attractor power. And the universe slapped me on the wrist for that. There was some interesting things that came up during that launch that really rocked me, and they were blessings, because it was the universe will reveal to us what we need to heal.
And can you tell about the belief that you had? Like, if I'm not doing it, it's not going to get done. I'm paraphrasing you there.
Absolutely. That's pretty much it. It's like, this is an old story I carried for many, many years. If I'm not doing it, it won't happen. And I'm really proud to say, actually, with your help, with Chris Carr's help, I have transformed that story completely. I am so good at asking for help now.
I love it. Yes.
I kill at it. And I have like the most amazing people supporting me in all ways. And so I want anyone that's listening to know that that is something that can be transformed. And the methods in this book are designed to help people transform belief systems like that.
Yeah.
So that was a crippling belief system that haunted me for years, that if I don't do it, nobody else will. And it's, you can burn yourself out real fast with that belief system.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah. And it's evidence too, I think, of I try and hunt for this in my own life. Where am I holding myself back because I am so committed to a certain version of reality, and I just keep creating that reality again and again and again, and I'm real good at it. Like most of us are, right? We're really good at it, and we're really convinced, no, this is the way it is. And so what I love about that story is that you were able to notice that recurring thought / belief and go, okay, let's try something different.
Let's try something different.
Let's try something wholly different.
That's right. And we all know the stories that hold us back and the limitations. And many of us have them in one corner of our life and not in another.
Yeah.
Or we have them in maybe in many. But those belief systems are the reason that we continue to stay stuck, continue to play small, continue to feel blocked. And this book is really just about reframing, reorganizing, and then reestablishing a new way of living so that you can just not be so stuck in those patterns.
You wrote, I loved this sentence. Bold belief is a success tool that transcends gender gaps, ethnic disparity, socioeconomic boundaries. Having a healthy mindset is critical. So again, I love to just give voice after having a show for, gosh, over a decade now. One of the good and not so good abilities I've developed over this time is the ability to hear kind of the audience members as I'm doing an interview and as we're having a conversation. So I can hear potential folks listening to us, right? And going, okay, I'm on board, or I want to be on board. But what about systemic injustices that exist in this country and all around the world? What would your response be to that? If someone is like so eager to get on the fearless money mindset train and they want that unwavering belief too, but they have that other voice in their head, what would your response be?
Yes, and it's so true. That's why I said in there, I said, I'm not trying to make light, you know, of any of the current injustices that exist in society. And honestly, globally, they're everywhere. Injustices exist. We do live in this world. But I would definitely say, read the stories of those who have overcome those, because that is what's going to give you the encouragement. I know I mentioned Steve Harvey earlier when I was talking about the whole living in the office, and he had a radio station on, or a radio show going on the 19th floor. But when I listened to his story, and I just heard it recently, but when I listened to the story of where he came from and all that he just overcame and how he just maneuvered through life, it's encouraging. It is so encouraging. So don't get me wrong. Different social injustices exist in life, but you want to listen to the stories of those who have overcome those challenges, and you want to let that be fuel and inspiration for you, and let you know that if that it can happen for them, it can happen for you too. So like I say, I'm not making light of anything that exists, because of course, if it was my way, I'd want the world all rosy and bubbly and fun and equal and fair. But the reality is things do exist, but you can always overcome the things that exist.
Thank you for that. I feel like you and I share a lot of DNA in that finding stories of inspiration of every different industry, of every different challenge in life. You know, I was speaking with, I think it was last week or the week before, Dr. Edith Edgar, who is a Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
And hearing her stories of forgiveness and compassion in light of some of the most challenging human circumstances that we can imagine. And I find so much hope in that. And just thank you for sharing that too, because for me, those stories of human possibility fill my heart, and they fuel my motivation, and they expand my vision of what's possible for us. And it feels right into your philosophy of energy and focusing on abundance and focusing on what we can do, knowing that the world is a very tough place. It's not fair at the moment, but the more of us that adopt this mindset and bring this level of commitment to who we are and how we can contribute, I think that goes a long way to starting to make the world more of what we hope it can be.
Yes, that is beautiful. And it's also proof that there is something that we have truly underestimated about the human mind. That when people can come from situations like that and have such joy, it just shows you the power of the human mind.
Yeah. And that's honestly, Ariane, it's why I do what I do. You know, like I love having conversations with brilliant souls like you who take the time to write books, to share these ideas. Because I remember when I first started even learning about the world of personal development, and I loved all your, you know, the tales that you tell in here too. I was like, why? How come this isn't taught in school? Why didn't I learn this, you know, as a child? And I know one of the other things you share is like just us going back to that childlike curiosity and that childlike wonder and that potential imagination, limitlessness that we've all possessed often as little kids, and re-embodying that and how much fun that can be in terms of our ability to create abundance, financial freedom, and all the things that we want to see happen around our money. I loved that. Are you still having fun with the nieces and nephews in your life?
Wait, I knew you were. Wait, when you were talking about that, Carter just popped into my head. Like literally, when you were talking about that, I was definitely with my nephews. We were in the pool this Sunday, but yeah, they're brilliant. They're brilliant. So, Carter started reading the book at 6, right? So when he gets to his part and he sees his name, he's just like, "Wait, Arian, I'm not 5 anymore." I'm like, "Yeah, but," I said, "Carter, I wrote it when you were 5. I can't go back and edit this right now." And he was just like, "Well, okay." Like he's just reading through the book. And yeah, I mean, he was teaching me how to play chess at 3. I mean, just these brilliant young minds and how they'll jump into a pool, whether if they know they can swim or not. And it's truly amazing, the mind of a child, because the world hasn't projected its fears onto them yet. So they operate from a purely fearless state. And I just remember I talk about it in the book when I said, well, Carter, make sure you save, your tooth fairy money. I said, you'll be rich one day. And he was like, one day. He said, I am rich. I said, no, you're right, baby. You are. Like, I'm like, let me make sure I encourage this. I was like, you are. So I also mentioned his pre-K graduation before kindergarten, when they asked all the young people what they wanted to be in life, all the little people. And he said, a superhero. And I looked at his mother. I said, Kelly, are you going to get my nephew straight? What's going on here? And she says, oh, no, I told him he could be. She said, I told him he could be a superhero at anything he desired to be. And I said, well, I love that you did not, destroy his imagination in that moment, but just guided it with purpose and direction. I was like, I love that. And that's the place that he actually operates from all the time. And I'm just like, I can't wait to see who you're going to be later in life. This is so awesome to me.
He inspired me so much throughout the book. I love this concept that you shared, that growth is a subtractive process. Growth is a subtractive process. This notion that when you grow, you lose things and you have to let go of what was. And you have this great question. Instead of asking yourself, who am I going to be without? You need to ask, who am I now going to emerge as? Anything else you want to add to this topic?
Yeah. This entire book really is an attack on how we look at life typically, and a benevolent attack, a gentle, loving attack, so that we can break free from these toxic belief systems and emerge free. So one of the toxic belief systems we have, grown to be addicted to is the idea of growth. That growth is when we prosper, when we succeed, when we add things to our lives, more cars, more degrees, more friends, more things, that's a sign of success. And that is the greatest entrapment, really, because success can never come from things added, right? So I call the true growth process a subtractive process, because you get to realize who you are going to be without these external accoutrements and attachments. All our suffering comes because we attach to things on the outside. I mean, this is hands down. Show me any moment in your life and I will show you how you're suffering because you were attached to something on the outside, including your own body, including your youth, including your husband, your partner, your car, your child. These are attachments that cause us suffering. And when we learn to live in the moment, in the idea of impermanence, and release these things constantly, then we actually, quote unquote, attach to something else. And what that is this ineffable, ever-present inner knowing. So it's a trade-off. You're not going to know yourself through your things or your relationships. You're only going to know yourself without that. It's the quest of the spiritual warrior is to strip yourself naked. That's when you know who you are.
Yes. And to be clear, I just want to, because I always have this new sense that I've developed since having a show of hearing people, but is Shefali saying right now that I need to let go of my house and get rid of my business? It's like, no, she's not saying that. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
What I'm saying very clearly is that who you are is something and someone beyond your possessions, beyond your career, beyond your relationship. And if you can free yourself of the idea that you are just your relationship or you're just your career, you will actually rise to this transcendent state of liberation. So you're limiting yourself by thinking you're your house, really, or your hair or your beauty. You're limiting yourself. Who you are is something so limitless, and you just haven't touched upon that because you think you're your hair, or you think you're what your partner thinks of you, or what your mother thinks of you, or how many likes you have on Facebook. That is not who you are. You are something grander and more essential than that, something of essence, not something of substance, and it's hard to explain, but as we go through this inner growth process, it becomes amply clear.
Yes, 100%. And even in my own life, one of my own mantras that helps me keep saying that I relate to this, even it's not the perfect analogy, but simplify to amplify. Like for me, the more I keep things simple, the more I kind of remove and strip away, I often feel this amplification of freedom and joy and connection and a deep sense of okayness with myself.
Yes.
And
yes.
So, yeah, it's that, and it's kind of fun to play with. And I think that this past year, everyone has been through so much, but so much has changed underneath our feet, and so many things that perhaps many of us clung to before or thought were a sure thing, or we were just in a pattern of expecting things to be as they were. It kind of woke us all up to be able to.
I think we women especially, because we're the nurturers and the caretakers and the fixers and the solvers and the mothers, really, whether we're biological mothers or not, we're all mothers, and we perform that mothering function in our relationships. We take on so much upon ourselves, and we identify with the perfection that we think we need to have. And so if we're anything less than perfect in our eyes, we think we're lesser than. And we get so busy, caught up, these mothers giving birth and trying to get the perfect body back. Or, now during the pandemic, so many mothers trying to work at home and teach their kids, but putting impossible expectations. And I see women generation after generation burdened by impossible expectations. Why? Because they truly, genuinely believe that this is the way to get worth. And this is not the way to get worth. So we're down a rabbit hole, a labyrinth of madness. And this book, for me, as a gift to women, is a wake-up call that, hey, this labyrinth is not going to take you to worth. So let it go now before you wasted your whole life serving and pleasing the tune of others and never listening to yourself.
Are you tired of doing things the hard way? Right? Of course you are. Look, you've got to watch this next episode with myself and Mel Robbins. She's going to teach you this weird little success ritual that's backed up by science to help you take control of your life. Watch it now.
I'm teaching you, using one gesture, how to unlock positive and energizing programming that's already in your mind.